Okay, I think we'll get started. Is it right that we have 1 hour? Is that what we scheduled for this?
We have from 12 to 1:30, but
Okay. I
I
don't
don't anticipate we'll
imagine,
take the whole time.
yeah, I don't imagine it'll take that long. My name is Lori Schubert. There are enough of you here. I don't know that I'll just tell you that I'm the executive director of the Quebec Writers Federation. I've been here for 20 years, which is really um, sort of sad if you think about it.
Lori, what?
It's a fantastic organization, and I love my job. And I'm very excited to be here today on this particular occasion because we're doing something new, which doesn't happen all the time. This project is something that grew out of the Conseil des Arts de Montréal approaching us out of the blue and saying, we'd like your help with something. They wanted to do a project on the West Island, multiple projects on the West Island, and they wanted it to be primarily in English. So they came to us, and over the course of really almost a year, John Wickham, who I will introduce to those who don't know him, John is our communications officer. John and I attended a number of meetings with the Conseil des Arts de Montréal and a group of representatives from the West Island, and gradually began to understand what this project is all about, because it is different from anything we've ever done before in that it is a project of co-creation. Normally when we do projects or residencies or anything like that, we're either asking an artist to develop their career for example, in a residency, or we're asking them to help other people develop their writing. And what this project does, that it took us a while to grasp, is have both of those things happen in some form. So the primary interest of the Conseil des Arts de Montréal is to support writers and professional artists. So they were very interested in a project that would give the writer an opportunity to expand their own writing practice in some way that they had not done before. And to do that by working with other people. So those other people, we don't know who they are yet. We only know that they're out there on the West Island. And when they see the description of the two projects that are selected, we hope they'll come thronging to sign up and to get involved with whoever is working out there. The only other things I can say about co-creation from my own research is that it seems to be something wherein the artist has to be a little bit flexible, because they're not just going in and saying, here's what we're doing and you're doing what I say. It's really supposed to be co-creation, which means being open to listening to the participants and how they see the project taking shape to a certain extent. And of course, that presents a challenge to you when you're writing your proposals. But I think just as long as you show an open-mindedness, I mean, you can say, here's what I envision, but I would say that the jury might be looking for some sort of open-mindedness to having real input from the co-creators. And I would personally say also, because we did put it into the criteria, creativity, playfulness. You could be experimental. I mean, something that really shows that you're doing something different from your ordinary practice. So that's really all I have to say before I turn it over to our project coordinator, but I will just introduce, I introduced John, I will introduce Riley Palanka, who's here. Riley, can you wave? For those who don't know Riley, Riley is our membership services coordinator, and all three of us, this is the full staff of QWF you have before you today. All three of us are here because we all want to be in a position to be helpful if you have questions, should we run into you somewhere. But the key person, your contact person for this project, is the recently hired Liana Kuzmano. Liana is a pretty long time member of QWF and a writing artist himself, and is fully versed as any of us in what this project is about. So Liana, why don't you take it over from here?
Great. Thanks very much, Lori. As Lori said, I'm the project coordinator for One Planet, Countless Words or Countless Worlds. I have not been here for 20 years.
Hello?
But
thank you. I'll come get it in a minute. Thank you so
if anybody's got, pets or people or packages coming in, if you could mute your sound, that would be great. Just before I turn it over to everyone for questions or any comments or concerns you might have, I'll give us a brief overview of the project just to make sure we're all on the same page. So as Laurie said, this project has been developed by QWF and the Conseil des Arts de Montréal in partnership with different cities in the West Island. Two projects and two artists will be selected. Each artist will receive a total of $11,000, and each artist will be expected to present their project in two different locations, so two different libraries or community spaces. And the projects are expected to take place over the course of 8 weeks, so roughly from April to September. There will be a presentation of these projects at the end, sometime in the fall, and the Conseil des Arts de Montréal CAM will be taking care of what this presentation will look like and where it'll take place and what time and all the logistical details. As Laurie said, we're looking for co-creation projects. The concept of co-creation will look different for every artist and for every project. And similarly, the theme for the projects is quite broad. Anything to do with the planet we live on, the countless words and worlds that we use and inhabit, outer space, the environment, diversity, unity, all these different things can come into play in your proposals. The deadline for the proposals is February 22nd. That's a Thursday. And pairings will be done in the second half of March. Right now, we have 5 representatives out in the West Island. They will be taking care of what those pairings are going to look like. The artists who are selected will be hearing back from us first, but everyone who submits a proposal will be getting a response. We're not going to leave anybody hanging. So just to stress what Laurie said, co-creation and the theme and the nature of what these projects are going to be, and for every artist, is really quite a great opportunity to interpret this according to who you are as an artist and the practice and your artistic practice, while keeping in mind that they're going to be projects done in collaboration with the public. And so there will be a lot of different people who are going to be coming interested in this project. And so that's something to keep in mind in your proposal and in the projects that you envision for this. So I'll open it up to anybody who has questions. Deanna, did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Deanna,
great.
thank you. Hi. This is very exciting. I'm wondering if the budget is, well, is that $11,000 a project budget? Is it intended to cover project expenses and so on, in addition to the artist fee?
Yes, it's intended to cover everything.
And does it also cover an artist fee for the co-creators?
I don't believe so. No, it
Okay.
won't.
Okay, thank you.
Christine.
Hello. I'm wondering if you know specifically where in the West Island or the project would take place, or who the collaborators are?
Specifically, no. It's definitely going to be in the West Island. So that can be Sainte-Anne-de-Bellevue, Baie-d'Urfé, Kirkland, Dorval, any of those places. And it is going to be libraries or other community spaces. That's the most that we know right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Rachel.
I think it's not unrelated to the previous question with that, but I'm just trying to get my head around. So there's 2 presentations at the end, but prior to that, it's 8 weeks of working, being physically present at a venue to be decided in the West Island / venues to work with members of the public there. And so sorry, I know there's a bit of vagueness about the partners, but so say, for example, you were going to go and do, 8 weeks of a poetry workshop series. Is that for the artists to then arrange and build the relationships with, the venues and say, okay, I think I'm going to go work with this library, and recruiting participants and things? I'm just kind of wondering how that works.
So the pairings are going to be done by representatives of different libraries and community organizations. And the participants are going to be, I don't want to say provided for you, but each library and community space will have a public that they cater to. And so that's something that they're going to be very supportive in providing for you. You don't have to go and look for your own participants in Dorval. So you'll be working very, very closely with the the hosts, if you will, in those
I'd
spaces.
like to, before we go to Marcia, I'd like to chime in on that one too. So you might get paired with, let's say, the Point Clear Library and Saint Anne de Bellevue, something in Saint Anne de Bellevue. You might be told that, and then Liana will be your liaison person, who will keep you in touch with, get you in touch with the coordinator at that facility. And yes, they will be responsible for advertising it out there, although with your support, obviously, in terms of what the call says, and bringing in the participants. And I imagine, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to reiterate, we're a little vaguer on this than we usually are on our projects, because we're not sure what you're going to propose, for one thing. But if you're doing, and the other thing is, the 8 weeks is not absolute. The CAM suggested that as a possibility, but they suggested it with about 8 weeks. So if you were going to propose something that you felt it was important to meet the people twice a week, you could do it in 4 weeks. Provided that the library that you're working with thinks that's workable for them as well. So even after your proposal is accepted, there may be some negotiating that needs to be done. And you know, obviously, if it's a workshop that meets once a week and you say it's going to be 8 weeks, that's easy. But if it's something else, if it's a residency, for example, some kind of a residency where you receive people, maybe you'd like to propose that it be that you go out there twice a week for, you know, 2 hours for a certain number of weeks, and have people sign up to come and see you and tell you stories or something like that. Okay, now we've got a whole bunch of questions piled up. I'll go back to you, Liana.
I think it was Marcia who's first.
Thanks. Actually, my question follows up on Rachel. So just so I'm clear, when you're referring to pairings, it's pairings with libraries
Or community organizations.
Okay, got it. And then so I guess I'm just wondering, it sounds in some ways like a public art project. So I was just wondering if you could talk a bit more about how the public art project meets with the artist, I guess, moving forward with their own artistic practice.
That's a great question. And that I think will look a little bit different for every artist. And that's what we're going to be looking for in the proposals. So if it's, you know, a residency or a series of workshops or a play that you're going to be putting on with members of the public, or, you know, inviting them to tell you community stories and building, you know, a collective archive of stories that are specific to a particular space, it's really going to look different for everybody. And so that's why we're really stressing the flexibility that's inherent to this project, and how it's a great opportunity to really be open to the different things that the participants are going to be bringing to the table. I understand that this makes it a little bit tough to wrap your head around sometimes, but it really is, there is going to be a lot of creative freedom in something like this when you're working with the project and the different people who will be involved from the public. I hope that answers your questions.
Just trying always to think of examples that come into my mind that might help to clarify. Suppose you decided that what you wanted to do was a history of a region or a city based on the stories of the residents of that city, but you wanted to do it in an epic poem. The project, the part at the end where the public gets to actually experience that poem is what's going to be taken on by the CAM and another organization. So they really only mentioned one organization so far to us, and I can't remember the name of it. John, can you?
No, I can't. I'm sorry.
Okay. What they do is something having to do with mapping and maybe projections. I'm not sure exactly. So,
Laurie, I can tell you.
Oh, you're
hello.
there.
Yeah, I'm late, but I'm
Yay.
there. So, hello,
Thank you.
everyone.
Everyone,
I'm
this is
Karine from
Karine.
Conseil des Arts.
ahead,
It's
Karine.
Map Montreal. That's they do some projecting. I don't know. Yeah, project, and it's a mapping on the city, and it's a kind of example. It could be everything else.
Karine, je vais poser une question aussi. Est-ce que l'artiste maintenant est responsable de comprendre quelle sorte de production ça va être à la fin?
Non, en fait, sorry, I'm sorry for my English, so I will, je vais répondre en français. Mais non, ça peut être, dans le fond, on veut connaître votre projet de création, de co-création avec les citoyens, mais comment il va être présenté à la fin au public, comment il sera diffusé, on pourra comme le préciser en cours de route, là. Avec la ville, in collaboration with the city and you, the QWF, we can make, c'est ça, on pourra en reparler, voir comment ça prend forme, puis qui on interpelle. Est-ce qu'on travaille avec Map Montréal, par exemple, ou avec une autre organisation, là?
So the form that the project will take
Yeah.
at the end is not the artist's responsibility. That'll be something that CAM will be supporting the artists with. And if it's Map Montréal or some other organization, the way the project manifests itself at the end is also going to be a collaborative process. It's not all on the artist to decide that.
So the way I understand it, there are really two outcomes. You, in your project description, are going to describe what you want to have happen at the end of working with the participants. But afterwards, because we're going to have two different artists with two different groups each, somebody's going to come in and look at that and say, okay, this person did an epic poem, but this person did a monologue, a series of monologues. How can we put those together to make some sort of a show? So you don't need to worry about that some sort of a show part. It's really only your project that you need to worry about at this point. I hope that's helpful.
Kara, I think Kara was next.
Hi, I'm wondering if the public I can produce my project could be children, like first, second graders?
Yes, definitely. You can specify which public would be the best fit for your project. And,
all right.
You know, it could be any demographic, any age group.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Katya.
Thanks, Lana. So I have a couple of kind of follow-up questions. Maybe I'm also missing something. I just want to clarify. So the co-creation is between the artist and the community.
That's right.
However, and there's two levels of presentation. One that's like whatever you actually do, like maybe a slideshow in the library or whatever at the end of the actual 8 weeks or however long. But then the final thing with Map Montréal or whoever is them taking both projects and kind of doing something with the two of them.
That's not my understanding. You're not responsible for doing a slideshow in the library.
Or what? Oh, okay. So there's no.
You may say what I want as an outcome is that I want to have created an epic poem.
Okay, I see. But there doesn't need to be
public interface kind of production is what will be taken care of with your input later.
Yeah. Do we need to provide for that in the budget? Provide for the Map Montréal or whoever, like that final production? Is there a budgetary element that we should take into consideration for that? No. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. I think that is those are my questions.
All right.
Christine? Oh, and we don't need to live in the West Island. Sorry.
No, you don't need to live there. No.
No, but you should include your travel. The grant will cover your travel.
Yeah.
Christine.
Yeah, so I have a budget question. If we're also working with other people, well, I guess maybe I'll start with, are there specific restrictions of what that 11,000 is for? So it's just for the research part or like for certain parts of the project? Do you have kind of a list of what the budget should be for? And then the second part is more about if we're already working with other people, if that would be our portion, like of the project.
So for your first question, correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, the 11,000 is intended to cover everything. So everything related to all parts of the project, except for the presentation at the end, which CAM and their partner will take care of. And that 11,000 is any materials that you might need, travel, transportation, all of that. Everything is really included under the 11,000. Can you repeat your second question? I'm not sure I understood that.
Yeah, it was more like if we already have co-collaborators, that if this 11,000 could go toward, like if we have a larger budget and this 11,000 could go toward our own part of that project.
I believe the project is just for individual artists. Laura, is that right?
Yes, that's what we decided. Karine, est-ce que tu es d'accord?
Ben, c'est ce qu'on annonce, là, que c'est pour les individus, mais vous pouvez avoir des collaborateurs à votre projet. You can pay them, yeah.
Okay.
Ouais, c'est plus des collaboratrices qui font déjà
Mm.
partie du projet. Ouais.
OK. Je pense que ça arrive régulièrement là, dans ce genre de projet, ouais.
Karine, I just want to clarify something for myself and everyone else about the budget.
It's a new project, so we learn together.
Yes. We definitely want the artists to take away some money from this. We want it to be part of it being for them, for the writer.
For
On
the
veut
writer.
que l'écrivain garde de l'argent pour eux-mêmes.
Oui, absolument. Oui, yes. You have to, c'est votre cachet, votre, oui, la plupart du montant, là. Yeah.
So just to clarify for everyone, you could be saying, I'm going to use my innate abilities at leading writing workshops. I have no other expenses other than travel. And that's legitimate.
Rachel.
It's related to all of this as well, just to make sure I've absolutely understood. So first up, so if, for example, you were doing something with film and you needed to bring in a sound recorder or somebody a camera person, we're paying them from the 11,000 to be part of that. Okay. And so if we are then putting in for our own rates, is there a particular tariff that we should be referring to in terms of workshop teaching or performance or anything like that? Is there a reference document that we should be putting for an hourly rate?
Karine, est-ce que tu as compris la question?
La dernière partie, non?
Okay. Elle demande si il y a un tarif spécifique pour l'écrivain par heure, par exemple, ou si on a deux coûts, un coût pour quelqu'un pour faire un film ou quelque chose comme ça, et le voyage, est-ce que c'est OK pour l'artiste de dire le reste c'est pour moi, c'est pas
oui. Ben
yeah.
oui, c'est correct. Vous avez juste à définir, just to explain your how many weeks, how long, and if we understand comment, avec le calendrier, sorry, juste, on veut comprendre comme le détail. Pourquoi vous gardez 8 000 $ par exemple? On veut le détail, le transport, le nombre de, comme détailler le nombre d'heures que vous évaluez, puis le salaire, le cachet que vous attribuez.
Préciser juste un petit peu, c'est par exemple, c'est le grille de tarifs pour UNEC, qui n'est pas nécessairement pour tout le monde ici parce qu'on n'est pas des membres d'UNEC, mais c'est ça pour CAM. Est-ce qu'il y a une référence spécifique?
Ben nous, c'est ça. Nous, c'est vraiment, on se réfère à l'association. Ça dépend de la discipline. Si dans votre cas, vous devez respecter la grille tarifaire, faut le faire, là. Vous n'avez comme pas le choix. Mais c'est pour ça que ça reste comme quand même assez large, là, parce que ça dépend de votre situation, là, de chaque cas. Ouais.
Thank you, Florencia. Am I saying that correctly? If you look into the chat, Florencia has put a resource in for establishing artist fees. You can also look at the grille de tarifs from the Union des écrivains et écrivaines et des écrivains du Québec. And I wanted to just say, Karine, I'm glad you're speaking French because il est nécessaire pour ce projet de comprendre le français parce que ça se peut qu'il y a un participant ou plusieurs participants qui parlent français. Même si vous donnez les instructions pour la plupart en anglais. Si quelqu'un a une question, nous voulons que vous fassiez capable de répondre aux questions en français.
Deanna.
Hi, thank you. My question is about accommodations at the facilities, the community centers pour les participants. Est-ce qu'il y a des ressources pour accommodation comme accessibilité et choses comme ça? Et est-ce que c'est nécessaire de mettre quelque chose en partie de le budget pour projet? Maybe that's a bit vague.
You're asking about accessibility needs, right?
Yeah.
So anybody who's got mobility issues or who needs, you know, are hard of hearing or anything like that. Have I understood that correctly?
Yeah, among the people, the co-creators, not the art, like if an artist needs, then they would specify, but I'm just wondering about the body of resources at the community centers and libraries and sort of making that a part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Or if there are resources available.
Right.
I think since most of these are going to be in public libraries, I think that the buildings will be accessible. You do not need to put in budget to cover those kinds of things. If there's a participant who wants to participate, it would be up to in my opinion, it would be up to the library to make sure that they were able to fully participate.
Thanks.
Are there any further questions? Yes, Rachel.
Why the West Island? Just curious.
That's
For
a
that,
great question.
you'd have to ask
Kathleen.
John.
Why the West Island?
I guess they feel they're serving other areas well.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is. Yeah.
Oh non, but you can. C'est ça. Donc, nos actions au CAM, on est principalement dans le centre. Historiquement, on a beaucoup soutenu d'organismes et d'artistes situés dans le centre de Montréal. Donc là, depuis quelques années, on essaie d'étendre nos actions, notre présence, notre soutien. Donc, on veut c'est comme une première collaboration de genre avec les villes de l'ouest de l'île.
Bronwyn.
If I may, as a West Islander, it's also a really, really rich, interesting area. It's super diverse. It's very beautiful. So
yeah.
very, very excited to see something outside of the center of Montreal. Let's see. My question, and I'm sorry if I missed it. I was having a bit of trouble with the Zoom. I just want to check. Do we need to pitch libraries and community centers or form those relationships or go out and choose? And if not, can we make suggestions of certain spaces that we think would be interesting or certain community centers that we think would be good partners? Or
I think you can make those suggestions, especially if they're specific to your project, but the pairings will be made by other people, representatives out in the West Island.
Okay.
The projects will have to take place in two places at two different locations. So that's something to keep in mind. It doesn't say anywhere that you can't make those suggestions, but I would keep that in mind, that sort of narrows your project a little bit, I think.
Other question, in terms of site specificity, does it necessarily need to be something that happens indoors? Or
I don't think so. No.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Katya.
Thanks. I have actually an add-on to Bronwyn's question. If there is a third site, let's say I'm writing an epic poem at the Kirkland Library, but I want to take the participants out in the woods for 3 weeks or whatever. Do I have to include, is the library assuming that liability? Do I have to assume that liability? And is there a cost associated with that? And is that part of for example, do I, if I'm renting a bus or whatever, like that, all those costs would come under the budget. But is that, I guess, is that likely to be doable from kind of like if we want to involve like a third site or a third, is there a liability issue basically, and a cost?
That's a question we haven't given any thought to. Karine, est-ce que c'est la première fois que tu entends cette question?
Ben là, je suis pas sûre de tout saisir les détails.
Dans le fond, la question, salut Karine,
Ouais.
dans le fond, la question, c'est par rapport à vraiment une certaine assurance ou quelque chose. Donc, on a une bibliothèque X et on veut sortir les participants dans une forêt ou je sais pas quoi pour aller faire une partie de l'atelier là-bas. Est-ce qu'on doit quand même assumer, est-ce qu'il y a une responsabilité civile dans le fond à assumer? Et s'il y a des coûts reliés à ça, est-ce que c'est nous ou est-ce que c'est la bibliothèque ou l'organisme communautaire qui assumerait ça?
C'est une bonne question. Ben, c'est sûr que si votre projet est prévu en extérieur, peut-être dans un cadre plus hors les murs, peut-être penser à inclure dans le budget de l'assurance.
Okay.
Par contre, selon la nature de l'implication des citoyens, j'imagine qu'il va y avoir comme une fiche comme
Genre,
d'autorisation du citoyen ou de responsabilité à signer de sa part. Donc, les gens devront être... ben, c'est ça, je peux voir un peu...
I think I would be happy posing that question to our comité de travail on the West Island because c'est possible que les bibliothèques ont déjà cette sorte d'assurance. So I'll find out and I will tell Liana. And if you have that question, then you can, in a few days, touch base with Liana and hopefully we'll have a clear answer.
I had also a second just logistical question, if I may, unless anyone else has a hand raised. Just about the application process. It's my understanding that we apply through QWF, not through the CAM, right? Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Puis, c'est le genre d'information que vous pouvez mettre dans la demande aussi. Que vous pensez que ça va nécessiter des assurances ou en tout cas une fiche d'autorisation, peut-être les étapes, là, c'est parce que quand il va y avoir l'évaluation, c'est peut-être le genre de truc qu'on va évaluer pour la faisabilité du projet ou le jumelage avec la ville qui va prendre en charge le projet. Ouais.
Do we have other questions?
Sorry,
If something, oh yes, go ahead, Caitlin. Sure.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't find the raise my hand button. I don't know what's wrong with me. I was just wondering what counts as a group? Is there any definition of that in terms of what would make it a group?
A group. I mean,
I'll just ask Karine, do you have a limit to the number of people that it could involve or a lower limit?
No, we don't have a limit.
Okay.
So it's flexible.
Thank you.
Bronwyn.
Actually, I was just wondering, the only information that I see is that we submit through Submittable. Any particular format associated with that? And I'm assuming we're limited to a document of written text, not necessarily any media assets in that.
That's right. Yes.
Okay.
Annabelle.
Hi, sorry, I'm technologically impaired.
Many of us are.
Obviously, you're coming to writers. Are you wedded to writing? If I'm interested in doing something interdisciplinary with different, media responses, would that be something interesting, or would it be better to stick with literature?
I think that would be totally acceptable as long as there's some form of writing or a literary aspect to the project.
Great, thank you.
With literary being interpreted in a broad sense, not necessarily on the page, for example.
Riley.
Hi, just for clarification for the people who might be interested in applying, two quick things. the first one has to do with Kara's question from earlier. Can people ask for their specifics from their audience? For example, they want their project to be specific for BIPOC writers or queer writers, or is it anyone who wants to register? Does it have to be open to everyone who's interested, basically?
Karine, I think that's a question for you.
On parle des, I'm sorry, for the artists who you talk about the artists who will be choose?
Non, ou le genre de public,
ou de public?
qui recherche
Okay.
pour s'ils cherchent un groupe d'âge particulier ou
No. It could be young people or older or family or as you wish. It's your project.
And thank you, Carrie. And my second question is, can people put in their budget that they would perhaps like to pay their co-creators, like say a small amount for, or is the understanding that people who want to be co-creators for this project are doing it for free, or can it be part of the budget, basically?
No, it's a co-creation. So we will, you will, or with the city, and invite the public to participate. So it's a kind of experience, or they are not professional. So you are the professional, and it's their own participation and volonté. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Je suis très contente que tu es là, Karine.
Moi aussi. Je suis très heureuse de voir votre intérêt. C'est super. C'est une nouvelle collaboration. Donc, on est heureux de faire ça avec le QWF.
So to clarify maybe a bit more about how the pairing process might go, if we, for example, do want to work with a specific group of people, say young migrant people, I don't know, coming from migrant families or something, would that then affect the pairing? Then would the pairing be done with, I don't know, a specific library or a specific community group? Is there a way that could be affected? Or,
I'm going to take this one, Liana. The people that we're working with, the working committee, Comité de Travail on the West Island, know the cities in the West Island. And that's why we're relying on them to look at the proposals that we have chosen, that our jury that we have yet to hire will have chosen, and to say, this one would really work well in Saint Anne de Bellevue, but not so much in Point Claire. So let's offer it to them. So if you know the West Island very well and know a particular community that you think it will work in, and that's what you have in mind, I think we've established that you should mention it. It may not be what happens, but it's something that I think you might want the committee to take into account.
Thank you.
This is really a co-creation project for this program. We're depending on you to co-create it with us. We're learning at every step of the way, and I think when the proposals start coming in, we at QWF and at the CAM will understand better what this might turn into. So I hope that, I don't see any other hands. I hope that we've been able to satisfy your initial questions, but you should know that Liana is there. Liana, can you announce your email address?
Yes, I've put it in the chat. If any questions come up, you can write to me at QWF One Planet Project at qwf.org. And I'd be happy to answer your questions or to find the answer and then get back to you. Katya?
I can't believe I'm still not unmuting myself after 3 years on Zoom. Sorry. I was going to ask just about the timeline, like end of February and then we're beginning in April. So I'm assuming that's a fairly quick turnover, or?
So proposals, the deadline for proposals is the 22nd of February, and then the jury will take a look at them. The comité de travail will take care of those pairings in the second half of March, and then in April, you'll be the people who are selected will start, but that's not a fixed.
Not quite.
Yeah.
I'm gonna,
Yeah, Laura, go ahead.
the period during which the project takes place is from April 1st to September 30th, but it can be June and July. So don't worry about having to suddenly do an upheaval in your life to make it happen. You've got time.
All right. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining us. If you have further questions, please write to me. And we're looking forward to receiving your proposals.
Very excited to see what you come up with. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.